Hello, folks. This is a test. We're going to be talking about something a little different today. This is the 14th episode of my Sanibel Chronicles. For any newcomer, my name is Charles LeBuff. I'm the creator of Sanibel Chronicles. And I want to thank all of the new subscribers that have joined us. Thank you very much. Subscription to Sanibel Chronicles is free. It doesn't cost the viewer anything, but it does enhance the possibility of my channel growing. So it's really essential that you take time and subscribe and give it a thumbs up on YouTube to help it grow with positive traction. Episode 14 will be done in 4 different takes, and I'll have to go ahead and get them all put together. About, over 40 years ago, a man discovered Sanibel Island, and like many people who found it, he fell in love with it. In 1989, Jim Fowler decided to publish his first Sanibel-Captiva Nature calendar. He used himself to write the first edition. The second edition, he called on Scott Martell, an island newspaperman, who is still available to find him on YouTube. He's now in Vietnam as an educator. I hear from him time to time. Well, in 1991, Jim Fowler contacted me and asked if I would be interested in writing narratives for his calendar. And of course, enjoying writing as I do, I decided to go ahead and tackle that position. And just recently, Jim published his 2025 Sanibel-Captiva Nature calendar, and that was my 33rd contribution to his calendar. So what I thought I'd do for this episode, and to make folks aware of this beautiful calendar, I thought I'd go ahead and read the 4 narratives that I wrote for the 2025 calendar, and give you the information that way. Betty Anholt of Sanibel, who is a co-author of 2 best-selling books with me, is another narrative writer. And I believe Betty started writing hers about the same time that I did, for the 1992 edition. So if you'll bear with me, I'll try to go through these as I wrote them, and it'll take me using my wonderful Click eyeglasses to get the job done. So here we go. The first is the Florida manatee. It's the photograph used this year is, I think, the first time Jim could not find a quality manatee photograph from a local photographer. So he reached out to the Manatee Club, and they provided him a very nice photograph of a female manatee and her calf. So this is what I wrote about that photograph. Just lose yourself in the photograph, and each one of the narratives we all write deal with the biology, distribution, life history of the organism we're writing about. So this is my narrative of the Florida manatee. The Florida manatee is a gargantuan marine mammal that ranges along both coasts of Florida. A mature female can attain a length of 13 feet and reach a weight of 3,000 pounds. Females gestate for a year and produce a 60-pound calf that is nursed for a year. Manatees ascend rivers and enter bays and sounds. In recent years, because of climate change, manatees have been discovered as far north as Massachusetts. Manatees are herbivorous and graze on submergent vegetation, hence their other name, sea cow. In 2021 and 2022, pollution killed off vast seagrass beds along the Florida East Coast, leading to a record of over 1,100 manatee deaths. Yet today's manatee population is at its highest level ever. The latest survey by state biologists estimates their population is between 8,350 and to 11,730 individuals. Their main threats are powerboats, extremely cold weather, and red tide events. Scores of manatees perish annually in Florida waters because they are struck by boats. Because of their intolerance to winter cold, manatees seek warm water refuges at natural springs and artificial warm habitat around power plant discharges. In cold weather, manatees can be observed at Manatee Park, located a few miles east of Fort Myers. In the warmer parts of the year, manatees are observed in the Sanibel-Captiva backwaters and are visible at some marinas. Manatees are protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the Endangered Species Act. In Florida, they are state protected as well. Manatee protection zones are established near areas where they seasonally congregate. In those zones, motorboat activity, speed, and entry to these areas is regulated. And we continue. This next photograph was taken by Sanibel wildlife photographer Teresa Baldwin. If you'll recall in episode 7, I believe, when I was discussing alligators and crocodiles, I showed a photograph of interaction between an alligator and a crocodile on Sanibel Island, and Terry's the person that took that excellent photograph. So her photograph is the yellow-throated warbler, a traditionally named bird group that some birds have been placed in are the dicky birds. Small birds are lumped into this group. Technically, they are known as passerine species, the perching birds. Among this group are colorful warblers that migrate and overwinter in Florida. In 2023, one dicky bird that once called Florida home, the Bachman's warbler, was determined to be extinct by the scientific and ornithological communities. Pictured as a yellow-throated warbler, an attractive species in the wood warbler family. This individual is hidden among the leaves of a sea grape tree, where it is actively hunting insects. Male yellow-throated warblers, that's the one pictured, have gray and white bodies that are striped with black and have bright yellow throats. They have white underparts on their bodies and tails. The plumage of females and juveniles of both sexes is duller. The species has a wingspan of 8 1/4 inches. Yellow-throated warblers breed in the southeastern United States, and many are Florida winter residents. Their winter range extends to the Caribbean islands and along the Gulf Coast into Central America. Female yellow-throated warblers build nests in Spanish moss, hanging from trees. They mold the moss with added grasses into a cup-shaped nest into which they deposit 4 or 5 eggs. These hatch in 2 weeks, and a pair may produce 2 broods a year. This warbler usually forages for insects high in the canopy of tall trees. During migration, they feed at lower levels. While most bird populations in America are diminishing, the yellow-throated warbler is one of the few species that has increased in recent years. Their population has jumped 50% since 1966. Yellow-throated warblers are nationally protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. This next photograph is a roseate spoonbill. The photograph was taken by Marianne Bargiotti. It's an individual bird in full breeding plumage. People confuse the strange-looking but equally attractive roseate spoonbill with American flamingos because of similar pink coloration. In August 2023, as powerful winds of Hurricane Idalia plowed through the Gulf of Mexico, flamingos from the Caribbean were swept to Florida and even as far north as Wisconsin. Some remained in South Florida. Now I would like to make a slight aside in addition to this narrative. Just yesterday on Sanibel at Cheyenne Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge in the western impoundment near the observation tower, a photographer captured a shot, I think, of 12 juvenile flamingos that came into this area during Hurricane Idalia. Now, since they're juveniles, myself and I think quite a few other folks interested in birds are hopeful that these juvenile flamingos will establish a territory and stay residents in Florida. Historically, despite what you may hear from various sources, flamingos were at one time native to the state, and it's the hopes of myself and many others that the juveniles that were swept here by the hurricane will remain and establish a nesting colony. Only time will tell. There are many differences in the two birds between flamingos and spoonbills, such as size, and each species have its own unique beak. The spoonbill's is flattened to help snatch small fish, shrimp, and other crustaceans upon which they feed. When foraging, spoonbills wade and swing their spatula-shaped beaks. When foraging, spoonbills wade and swing their spatula-shaped bill from side to side. Spoonbills range from Texas and Florida south through the islands of the Caribbean Sea, Central America, and South America down to Argentina. This colorful bird is one of the most photographed birds that occur on the islands, or for that matter, anywhere along the coast in southwest Florida. They have made a hard-fought comeback since they were hunted to the brink of extinction in the early 20th century for their colorful feathers. In Florida, roseate spoonbills nest in Florida Bay, Tampa Bay, and in Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. In September 2022, Hurricane Ian damaged colonial bird nesting habitat, but did not ravage the area during nesting season. Females build nest platforms from sticks and deposit up to 3 eggs. Both sexes share incubation responsibilities, and the eggs hatch after 24 days. It takes 4 years for the white fledglings to transform to the bright colors of the adults. Mature spoonbills are bald-headed, generally pink, and have bright crimson bars of color on their closed wings. The adults have a wingspan that reaches 50 inches. In Florida, the roseate spoonbill is classified as a species of special concern, and the species receives federal protection through the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And here we go with the fourth narrative that I am presenting in this episode. It's the American alligator. And this was taken by Sanibel photographer Cliff Bytel. He's a popular photographer and contributes many excellent photographs to these calendars. The American alligator occupies 10 of our southeastern states and is found nowhere else in the world in the wild. Its greatest numbers occur in Florida and Louisiana, where nearly 2 million alligators reside in each state. Prior to 2023, Sanibel Island had a moderate population of alligators living in the Sanibel Slough, the island's interior wetland system, and in the scattered real estate spoil ponds. The population was downsized 2 decades earlier when large alligators were removed by state trappers and hauled off island. They were later killed for their commercial values, hides and meat. This was in reaction to 2 alligator-caused human fatalities that occurred on the island. Hurricane Ian's tidal surge reached 15 feet above sea level and inundated all of Sanibel Island in 2022. The freshwater was overloaded with chlorides. Alligators cannot tolerate high salinities because, unlike the American crocodile, they lack salt purging glands. An unknown number of alligators perished following Ian. Fortunately, the rainy season after Ian provided a stratum of fresh water above the heavier salt water, and the alligator that is pictured survived. Male alligators in Florida average 12 feet in length. Females are smaller but regularly reach 9 feet. Females build a mound-like nest from vegetation. Inside it, she deposits 3 dozen hard-shelled eggs that are 2 inches long. Females protect the nest, and eggs hatch in about 70 days. The 9-inch hatchlings grow fast. Alligators are opportunistic predators and feed on anything they can ambush. When they are fed by people, an illegal act in Florida, they lose their fear of humans and will approach. There are rare alligator attacks on people in Florida. Humans are not part of the alligator's prey base. They prefer fish, turtles, birds, and small mammals. Alligators are federally protected by the Endangered Species Act as a threatened species because of their similarity of appearance to other crocodilians that are critically jeopardized. Florida protects the reptile, but also manages hunting seasons that allow alligators to be taken by licensed hunters. Now, these calendars are extremely popular. They're available in most fine shops here in Southwest Florida, and most of the better shops on Sanibel-Captiva have the Sanibel-Captiva Nature calendar in their inventory. If you don't live in Southwest Florida or you don't visit Sanibel Island, these beautiful calendars are available under a mail order system, and while I'm talking, I'll post the information on obtaining these calendars from Jim Fowler directly through the U.S. mail. Now the value is very important because every year Jim donates part of the proceeds to conservation groups here in Southwest Florida. And these organizations are very important. They need funds. So Jim contributes to the Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium in Fort Myers, the Clinic for the Rehabilitation of Wildlife on Sanibel, through the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, and their friends group, the Ding Darling Wildlife Society. He also gives funds to the Sanibel-Captiva Audubon Society, the Save the Manatee Club, the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, headquartered in Naples, the International Osprey Foundation, originated on Sanibel, and he provides funds to that group, the Sanibel-Captiva Conservation Foundation, and Turtle Time, Inc., a sea turtle project in the southern section of Lee County. And don't forget, the next episode will kick off a 4 or 5-part series on the early efforts at sea turtle conservation here in Southwest Florida. Now please don't, if you haven't yet, please subscribe, and by all means please hit the thumbs up button, because the subscriptions and the likes will help my channel grow. So it's essentially important. If I'm going to head and continue presenting the Sanibel Chronicles, I need your help to make the channel grow, to reach more people, to educate more people, and share stories about an earlier time in one of the greatest parts of the United States of America. Thank you very much.